Anyway, so yesterday evening after dinner, the boys were like, let's go for a bike ride. And we're like, all right, cool. You know, the third bike ride of the day. And as we're riding our bikes, I pull Christian on the back of my bike with the little carrier. And Boston rides his bike and Jackie rides hers. So we're cruising. We're on our street. We're coming around the corner. Boston's flying up ahead like he's way ahead of us, and he's always, just riding fast and, just doing what kids do. But just to give you a little background, me and Boston are very different. He is a lot like Jackie in the way that he is, reserved, and he doesn't put himself out there, per se. He's not aggressive. He's just very kind and loving. And I'm not saying I'm not kind, but those of you know me. I'm a loud, very just kick the freaking door in. That's my personality, and I'm a fighter. I defend. That's who in my nature, and that's not Boston's nature. He's very much like follow the rules. He doesn't want to hurt people. He's just a sweet, kind-hearted, very tender-hearted kid. So as I come around the corner, I see him on the sidewalk, and we always tell him, Boston, get on the sidewalk, stay on the sidewalk. We don't want him in the street. Cars are always flying by. You know how that goes in these residential neighborhoods. And I see this man walking his dog, and he begins to yell at Boston, like reprimanding him, not like, hey, excuse me, it was straight disrespectful. And so I see it in my heart. My blood starts boiling. And those of you who have kids, Papa Bear is about to come out, and then I'm, listen, I love Jesus. I am a strong Christian guy, man, but man, look, I'm not dead. You know what I mean? I still have a lot to be worked out in me, and there's still anger inside of me. There's still, all of that. And so, I don't want to get on here and act like I'm Mr. Righteous and holy, and I'm still jacked. And so I see, this guy yelling at my kid, and I roll up on him, and it's a older man, and he's by himself. And I said, hey man, please don't talk to my son like that. That's crazy, dude. He's 7 years old. And so I'm now giving him the business and helping him to understand that he needs to calm down, and he needs to not yell at my 7-year-old. He didn't know what he was doing. Oh, he threatened me. And I mean, he's just going on, and he's saying things that are just, it's almost like I'm at a point where I just feel like I'm being punked. I'm like, is this really happening? Is this real life? This guy's not making sense to me, now he's starting to go off on me, and then my blood's boiling, and I'm frustrated, and I'm starting to feel that out-of-body experience. And, Jackie turns around and comes back, and now she's telling him, that's my son. You don't have to yell at him. He's 7. He didn't mean to do anything. He didn't mean what he didn't mean it. And so now we're going back and forth with this guy. And so, immediately I'm like, look, I'm going to remove myself from this situation. This is not healthy. And I said, but I want you to know that, I'm going to be praying for you. I run by these houses every single day. Where do you live? I'm going to pray for you. And he's like, oh, you're one of those people, huh? And I was like, yeah. I was like, listen, man. I was like, you obviously have issues in your heart. And I said, I started to share Jesus, and I started to say Jesus' name. And man, listen, this guy, he backed up. He didn't want anything to do with it. The conversation was over. And then he proceeded to tell me that he's hurting, and he's struggling. And his wife died of cancer a year and a half ago. He's got cancer. He's been quarantined. He can't go anywhere. All he has is this dog he's walking. And he shared with me that this is the third wife that's died on him. And he begins to cry. And guys, it was unbelievable. Immediately, I just felt so terrible. I felt like, man, here I am, judging this guy, mad at this guy. He's this little old guy. I'm a young guy who has my health, and I have my wife and my kids, and man, I have it all. And this man is lonely, and he is depressed, and he is a war vet. He was in Vietnam. He was in the military for the longest time. Here this guy has served our country, And I know that he shouldn't have treated my son that way, but man, I never had an opportunity to really show the love of Christ to him. I was like flesh, angry, pissed, frustrated. And then I had the nerve to try to sell him Jesus like that. Wow, like that was terrible. It was terrible. So to end the story, the reason why I'm telling you is because, we go on to continue to talk. Man, my heart is softened and I'm sharing with him. And man, I want to start crying myself just because I feel so bad for him. And he is sort of rejecting the gospel. He's rejecting the thought of God. He's like, honestly, I'm done with God. I gave up God a couple years ago because I don't believe there is a God, because how could a God let us suffer the way, that was his mindset. And so, man, I felt it instantly in my heart to try to connect with him. And, this man's lonely, doesn't have anyone. And, once this quarantine's lifted, man, just to visit with this man, and I had been running on this street for months. And I pray every time I run on the street, Lord, give me an opportunity with a neighbor. Open up a door for me. I want to know these people. I want to be a good neighbor, and, I want to know people. And through this quarantine, through this social distancing, as I ride my bike, I've seen my neighbors more now than I've ever seen anybody. I've seen more neighbors, talk to more neighbors. I mean, this is bringing people together. And so he was sort of rejective of that idea, but he told me, we'll see what happens. So this morning, as I finished my quiet time, I wrote him a letter, and, I'm going to put it in his mailbox right now. And, just as inviting him to know me. I gave him my number, my address. I shared some scripture. I shared Isaiah 55 that says, for my ways are above your ways, my thoughts are above your thoughts. Just as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are my thoughts and my ways. And what that says is we don't understand why things happen in this life. We can't comprehend God's mindset. Like, we don't know his plan. Like, we just know we live on this earth, and some of us have better lives than others. Some of us deal with loss, deal with death, deal with cancer. Some good people have bad things that happen, and bad people have good things that happen, and we just don't understand why that happens. But that's what I shared with my friend Jack is, that doesn't mean God's not there. That doesn't mean he's not working. And so, man, I want to encourage you guys to open your eyes, man, to understand that there are people around you that are hurting. And don't make the same mistake I made yesterday, man. Like, I had an opportunity to show this man Christ, and instead I showed him the flesh. I showed him Salim. I showed him, how angry I got and how defensive I was over my son. Nothing really happened. There's no need for me to act like that, but I did anyway. Listen, guys, the bottom line is this. The world needs to see Jesus. They don't need to see you. And so learn from my mistake. And so as I woke up this morning and I prayed for him, man, it was just a moving, emotional moment, because I feel like this guy, he needs Jesus. And I'm just praying that opportunity arises for me to have more conversation with him.